Go ahead.
Why don't we open up for questions?
Joe Zone, CBS, Hartford, Connecticut. Geno, is there any way now to mitigate the stress of minutes on players at this stage of the game, whether it's coaching style or resting style, whatever that might be?
They let us go in the portal and get some people here tomorrow, which I don't see happening. If we get a 40-point lead after the first quarter, and we can rest, but I don't see that happening either. So, no, there is no way to mitigate it. It is what it is. This is what we got. This is how we got here, and this is how it's going to end, either for the better or for worse. So, luckily, there's a day in between. Luckily, the game is later in the day tomorrow, I think. What time's the game tomorrow?
It's 6 o'clock.
6. So it's not a noon game or something like that. But there's no alternative, and our players know that. I wish there was another way, but there isn't. And sometimes you find a lot of strength that you didn't think you had when you're forced in this situation. So, you know, we tried it yesterday. We tried to slow the game down, and that backfired. So I think we just got to keep our foot on the gas pedal for as long as we can, and hope it's enough.
Alexa.
Alexa Philpott, ESPN. Geno, Lindsay was telling us stories of how you guys go way back when you were recruiting Hillary and trying to use her to get Hillary to come to UConn. What do you remember from those days? What have you seen from Lindsay over the years? And she also mentioned an interaction you had maybe at the Final Four in 2013 when she was with Cal, and I think you're getting your ring size, and you said something to her like, you can enjoy this once you've been here like 10 times or something like that. I don't know if you remember that either.
Yeah. Yeah, I so much has transpired in the last, 40-some years that I actually forgot that they were in the Final Four, and we played them, if I'm not mistaken. No? We might have played them. Yeah, we played them. I don't remember a lot of what happened that long ago, but I do know that when she and Hillary would come to camp, and I knew Hillary really wanted to come to UConn, and Jen Rosati was going to be graduating, and I was hoping that Hillary would then kind of step into that role, and Lindsay and her were best friends, and so I tried to charm up Lindsay and try to help us get Hillary. So I hope she doesn't hold it against me that I didn't think she was good enough to play for us, but she did all right. She went to Brown and everything. She lived happily ever after, and here she is now with one of the best teams in the country. And great moments, incredible who you run into, and people that pass through your life when you've been doing this for so long, and it's exciting to see them, kids like that, get into the coaching profession, have the success that she's having. Her life has been a tremendous journey, and she's at an age where she can probably sense that maybe there's a few more of these in her future, So it's an exciting time to be her, and I'm happy for her. I'm proud of her. Hopefully it's some things she learned at our camp that helped her along the way.
Then we'll come over here.
Luke Evans, Orange County Register. Geno, asked Paige this yesterday and wanted to get your thoughts on it, just with how much Juju does for USC. Do you think Paige, with her competitiveness, will want to take on that one-on-one matchup at times defensively tomorrow? Or from a game planning standpoint, are you as a coach more thinking about how can we kind of slow down their entire kind of perimeter threats? How do you think Paige will kind of buy into the defensive game plan there?
You know, I don't know how other coaches approach this, but my approach has always been, what do they have that we're going to have a problem with? And then it just becomes obsessive of, you know, how can we solve that problem? How can we solve that problem? And then all of a sudden it dawns on you that, yeah, we've got a problem that we may not be able to solve. And that's all there is to it. And then the other thing that hits you is they've got a problem that they may not be able to solve. And that's what makes the game, you know, such a beautiful, you know, intriguing expectation, is that maybe neither of us are going to solve the problem. And maybe some of the other players on each team are going to end up being the difference in the game. I don't know. I've been in so many of these and seen so many different scenarios. I don't think that every time Juju gets a bucket, Paige is going to go out of her way to make sure she gets a bucket. I think that would be foolish on our part. I think we just got to play. And whatever happens, happens. You know, sometimes you just resign yourself that it's like the other night against Syracuse, right? If a kid's getting 20, 23, 25 every night, you're not going to go out there and go, well, she's only going to get 6 against us. I don't think that's realistic. So we go out, we play UConn versus USC and see what happens.
Jesse Doherty with the Washington Post. Geno, hearing Lindsay talk about being around you at the Final Four, you could tell how much it meant to her and maybe how cool that experience was. Who were the people for you when you were first starting out that, I don't know, if they told you you were going to go to 10 Final Fours, you would have thought, wow, that's really cool? Who were those maybe influences?
Nobody. There was nobody telling me that we were going to go to 10 Final Fours. You know, after my first one, the only question was, how'd you guys get here? Because we didn't belong there. We didn't look like a Final Four team. We didn't come from a Final Four conference. We didn't come from a Final Four part of the world. You know, we were the first team ever from north of the Mason-Dixon line, I think. You know, maybe I think Cheney did, but I think, you know, in 1991, we were really an outlier, and at that time there was only a handful of schools that really had realistic expectations to be in the Final Four. However, in my mind and in my coaching staff's mind, we came to the realization that if we could get to that Final Four in 91 with the team that we had at that time and taking advantage of the new rules, you know, the three-point line and all that, that if our recruiting got better and we started to attract better players, that we could get ourselves back to the Final Four. And then 4 years went by and we didn't, so we thought, all right, that's gone, so now we need to go coach someplace where we have a chance to do that. But no, it was a different world back then. Yeah, there weren't. It wasn't until we won in '95 and then in 2000. So I never got like a lot of encouragement. Yeah, you guys, you know, you're going to be back here a lot. But after 2000, 2001, 2, 3, I got a lot of, we're sick of you being here. So I think that was even better than the encouragement.
Geno, Michelle Smith from The Next. How do you gauge Paige's hunger level to get you guys back to the Final Four and put you in a position to win a championship?
I don't know. I can't gauge any level on her sometimes. Paige is a different. Paige is a different star than maybe any that I've ever coached. She doesn't show it. She doesn't carry it around with her. She doesn't talk about it. Other players that I've had that were of that level, they walked around like they owned it. They talked like they owned it. They played like they owned it. I think Paige keeps it all inside and lets it come out when it needs to come out. But I know that winning a national championship is really probably the biggest reason why she went to college and played at UConn in the first place, that she wanted an opportunity to do that. And not that she couldn't do that somewhere else. She just felt like that's the place where I have the best chance to do this. And it's not something she talks about every day. It's not something that she discusses with her teammates. I just think it's there, and hopefully it shows in her game when we're at crunch time.
Grace Rayner with The Athletic. When you look at both sides of the bracket tomorrow, all the star power we're going to see here and in Albany, just what do you think a day like tomorrow means to women's basketball?
You know, I've always thought, and I hope the portal doesn't screw this up, but I always thought what was unique about women's basketball as opposed to men's basketball was in the new era of men's basketball where players play for 1 year and then they have an opportunity to go professionally. We always had the luxury of players playing on your team for 4 years, and you could count on when you got to the Final Four, every team loaded with juniors and seniors that all been together. I mean, I can remember all those great battles we had with Tennessee, Notre Dame, you know, Stanford even, Georgia, and teams were loaded with WNBA superstars in the making. And I just hope the portal doesn't screw that up where everybody moves year to year to year and changes that, because tomorrow's a testament really to the young superstars coming up, you know, like Madison Booker and Juju, just to name two. I'm sure there's others that I'm missing out on, you know. Wiley, you know, there's just so many young players that are, hopefully they stay where they are and they grow. And kids that have hung in there for 3 or 4 years and made their mark on their school and on their sport. So I think it can showcase all that's possible if everybody just buys in and hangs in there and grows with their team. But it may be the most fun, you know, the fun 2 days, today and tomorrow, that we've had in a long time.
This will need to be our last question.
Lily Crane, the Daily Emerald. Kind of going off that question, talk about the history of these two programs, USC and UConn. What kind of extra significance do you think it means with these two programs kind of finally matching up in the tournament?
When I started coaching in the 70s, you know, when I coached at St. Joseph's with Jim Foster, I didn't even know who the good players were. Nobody was on television. I don't even know, didn't know where the Final Four was, didn't know anything about anything. When I got to UVA in the early 80s, you started to see more of who the national teams were. And they all took turns being great, you know, whether it was Old Dominion was great, Louisiana Tech was great, you know, Tennessee became great, Texas became great. They all kind of took turns. And then USC exploded onto the scene in a different way, you know, with Cheryl Miller and the McGee twins and all that. And everybody dropped off. And sometimes when you drop off and you are out of sight, you never come back. You know, like Old Dominion, Louisiana Tech, for instance, you don't come back for a variety of reasons. And sometimes maybe it takes an influx of new coaches, new players, new commitment, and rekindle that fire. And, you know, and certainly USC has always had the potential to do that, and they've been close sometimes. But this seems like a throwback time to USC, you know, and it's ironic that this is the first time that we're meeting in the Final Four, you know. But it goes to show you how long they've been away from the limelight. And yeah, one player, one coach can make a difference. And here they are, and here we are, and I wish we could both win, but we can't.
And start right there.
Good morning, Michelle Smith from The Next. Paige, this one's for you. I asked Geno how he gauges your hunger to get this team back in a position to win a national championship. And he said sometimes he can't tell that you don't wear it on, you don't wear it sort of on your sleeve the way other players that have come through this program has. So I guess my question for you is, how hungry are you to get this team a national championship?
Very hungry. Obviously, everybody on this team is hungry. I know the senior class especially. You come to UConn to win national championships, so that's the main objective and main goal the entire 4 or 5 years, however long you're here. So, I mean, that's the main goal and what we're all focused on.
Thomas Johnson, Daily Trojan. Paige, you had one of the best freshman seasons ever in women's college basketball. Juju's having a great season herself. Do you kind of see a little bit of yourself in her?
Yeah, just, I mean, this entire freshman class has been amazing. Our freshmen around the country, and just the way they've come into the college basketball scene and have been fearless and contributed right away and are leading the country in a lot of things. So for her confidence, her fearlessness, and the ability to just not care that she's a freshman and just perform the way that she does at the level that she does, it's pretty amazing.
Go back over here.
Hi, Paige. Michelle from The Next again. I'll just follow up with that. How much time have you and Juju spent together, and in what context?
I believe the only time we interacted was at a Nike event, what was it, 6 or 7 months ago, before the season started. There was like a high school all-star event in New York, and we talked and we sat courtside at the game next to each other, and we just kind of talked basketball and life. And I think that's the only time we really interacted.
James Perch in the Basketball Academy. Aaliyah, this one's for you. When you picked up your 4th foul, it's really easy to maybe not have the greatest mistake response, but I thought you just did a tremendous job of being a great teammate. Can you speak on that and the importance of having a great mistake response when you when things might not be going your way?
Yeah, I don't let something that's out of my control my mood, my emotion, and my will to still want our team to win. And even from the bench, that's a mistake that I'll take, and I can't be effective on the bench. So moving forward, can't do that. But even from the sideline, I'm still giving the energy, still helping my teammates, and just knowing that whenever coach decides to put me back in, just be ready to keep doing what I was still able to do.
Kevin Pelton, ESPN.com. Don't know how much of a chance you've gotten to get into the scout thus far against USC, but curious just for either player, what you think their size in particular, what kind of challenge that's going to be against this, kind of shorthanded version of your team.
Yeah, they have size at every position, honestly. Their guards are tall, their posts are tall, so it'll be a challenge. They use their size well, so us just rebounding as a team, defending as a team, trying to make sure we're keeping the posts in when we can and keeping the guards out when we can, and just make sure we're contesting everything and making it tough for them on offense, and then trying to attack that size on the offensive end and attack the mismatches there. But I'm sure we'll get more into it later with the scout. But again, just rebounding as a team and trying to use our smartness rather than what we lacked in length and height.
Lily Crane, the Daily Emerald. This is for either or both of you. Everyone's kind of talking about Monday, LSU, Iowa, UConn, USC, and just kind of the viewership numbers, anticipating kind of records being broken with that. What does it mean to you guys to be able to participate in these moments so critical to the growth of the sport?
I mean, it means a lot to be a part of it, because we're part of the cause helping grow the game, especially women's sports. And in terms of viewership, it's just more people are tuning in, more people are becoming more aware of the talent that we bring to the game, and it's humbling to be a part of that. But I think the biggest thing is we're just going to continue to be dominant, continue to play together, and continue to do what we do and try to win the game, because by us just staying poised mentally, that attracts a lot of people to our game and attracts a lot of people who may not have watched or tuned into women's basketball before this year.
We're going over here first, and then we'll come over here.
Luke Evans, Orange County Register. Paige, just curious, you talked about, Juju's kind of poise and confidence as a freshman, and when you did sit down and talk with her, when you were in New York for that event, like you said, just talk about life and this and that. What did you get a sense from back then as far as just kind of her mentality, entering her freshman year in college? Did you sense, I guess just what did you pick up on about her, just from that conversation that you guys had?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about her kind of transitioning into college, being a freshman, and what that was like for her. But definitely from that conversation, you can tell she's got a good head on her shoulders. She's humble, she's hungry. And you could tell, like, just from that conversation that she wanted to make an impact right away and put her presence on the college game as a freshman. And so you kind of saw that from the conversation.
Thomas Johnson, Daily Trojan. You guys are the number 3 seed. USC is the number 1 team. But UConn has had a much more storied history in the tournament this century than USC has. Do you guys feel like the underdog coming into the game tomorrow?
Go ahead, Aaliyah.
I mean, I think if you look at our team, you can definitely say that we're the underdogs. But our mindset going into the game is, we're going to play like we play each and every game, execute the game plan, follow our schemes that we're trying to limit them and trying to play more to our strengths. And I think we just see it as another game. We can't really get too caught up in the rankings or caught up in, like, who's a higher seed, anything like that. We're really just going to go in there and play our game, control what we can control, and play the UConn way.
Yeah, Paige, just wanted to shed some light on you. You do such a tremendous job moving about the ball, setting back screens, getting open, and then really getting to your spots to take great shots, and that opens up for other teammates for you to be a playmaker. How would you encourage the next generation to take those type of shots and make those type of plays?
Well, thank you. I would say just impact winning, just find different ways to contribute. I know a lot of what people watch, especially in the NBA, but it's a lot of ball-dominant players, people who always have the ball in their hands. And I feel like there's not a right or wrong way to play, but just learning how to maybe play with the ball in your hands or maybe play off the ball, and just have variety to your game. It makes you harder to guard and easier to play with. And just what I've learned, how hard you cut gets other people open, how well you screen gets other people open. So your teammates will love you if you play selfless, but just trying to grow your game as much as you can. Make sure that when people are scouting you, there's not one way they can stop you and guard you. So that's what I would say.
Tuknina Nguyen with the LA Times. Paige, going back to your conversation with Juju, at that time, did you offer her advice going into her freshman season? You know what those expectations, you'd been in those shoes before. Did you kind of let her know what it would be like, or what was that conversation like?
No, I think we were just going back and forth, just chatting. For her, it was like first time stepping on campus, so just talking about that and her asking about my recovery and how my knee's been. Yeah, just that.
Kevin Pelton, ESPN.com. I was curious, you've been asked so many times about the freshman class, and it wasn't that long ago that it was the two of you along with Caitlin and Cam Brink and all the other great players that were coming in as part of that class. But a lot has happened since then. How long ago does that experience feel now?
It feels like a long, long time ago, especially for me. I feel like it's been a lifetime since I was a freshman, and we were playing during COVID times in front of cardboard people. It honestly didn't feel like a real experience looking back at it. But yeah, I would say like this freshman class reminds me a lot of what we came in, just fearless, confident, and willing and ready to contribute to basketball. But yeah, I mean, that does feel like a really long time ago now.